Good evening, folks. Reloading Bench back to you once again, and this short video is what I'm going to call step one in my shim stock tramming process. So this is what the indicator looks like when it's correctly installed. Well, it's installed. And I'm going to do the x-axis, and I've already tinkered a little bit, so I kind of know where I'm at. And this is my high side. And the reason I know this is my high side is because I tested it. So if you look at the indicator, 0 is at 6 o'clock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the head, raise the table. So it's not really raising the table, it's lowering the head. And I'm going to bring it to 0. And that's about 0. And then I'm going to swing this around slowly so as not to jam it. And I'm going to bring it to the 180 degree side, and it's not touching. So let me move the camera 1 second. All right, there's your extreme close-up. So it is not touching the table. So I can lower the table, and that needle is not moving. You can see the table lowering. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm actually raising the head, not lowering the table, but you know what I'm trying to talk. What I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to talk. All right, so we're at the 10. So what I'm going to do, and we need to be at the 0. So the difference between the 10 and getting to the 0, this is a 5. Each click is half a thou. So 2 clicks are a thou. So each number, 0, 5, excuse me, that's 5 thousandths. So we are 5, 10, 15, we are 20 thousandths of an inch away from, and now I'm going to lower the head, which is the equivalent of raising the table. Do that nice and slow, and you can see me move to, we should start moving here in a second. There we go. Move to 0. All right. So in theory, if I go back to the 10, I will move the camera again. And when we come back over to, again, this is Chinesium, so bear with me. I'm going to move the camera back over here, so when I swing this, and I'm going to swing it. I'll leave it right there. When I come back, you should see it go back to about 0. All right, you can see it's at the 10. And hopefully, when I come back here, it goes back to very close to 0. And it'll be this. And that's a thou off, depending on, there's a thousandth. So again, the Chinesium of this particular, you can actually hear the roughness. What I probably should have done is wipe that table a little. 1 moment, please. Maybe there's a little bit of oil. But again, it's a pretty, we're at roughly a little less than a thou. I could live with that considering my machining capabilities. So again, we're, and depending on how I move this, you can see the needle move. Again, this is a very, there it is at 0. It's a very sensitive indicator because it's at half a thou. But again, we're close to 0 right there. So this is the high end. This is the low end. So because I need 20 thousandths of an inch, I would probably take my blue and cut 4 strips. And that gives me 20 thousandths of an inch. And I would do it on the right side where the bolts are. So that's the game plan. Once I have the x-axis trammed, I will then try to do the y-axis. So, probably be a while before you see this video. Later. All right, folks, let's try this again now that my battery is plugged in. I ran out of juice and it cut the video off. So I did something unusual. I read the directions. This is actually from Little Machine Shop 2023, the 6450 mini mill, and it shows the two types of indicators or tools to use for tramming, and it talks about right front, right rear, and doing the same thing on both sides, and then obviously putting shims right there. So I'm going to take 4 measurements, and I've been playing around with this, and I believe this to be my highest corner of the 4 corners. And the reason I know that is because when I start here, 0 is about a little past noon. So there's 0. So if this corner was lower, it would go under 0. And if this corner is higher, it will go above 0. And because it's not moving, this is higher. And if we use the same thought process by testing the other corners, which you can't see, it's not even touching either front or rear right corner. So this is the highest corner. So what I'm going to do is find 0 on this back corner, which again, 0's at noonish. Whoops, went right past it, flew right past it. All right, so there's 0-ish. And again, I'm not expecting perfection. So 0, 0, and I want to say it's 15 thousandths. There's 10,000, 13. What are we at? 10, 11, 12, 13 thousandths. So that tells me I need to add 13 thousandths to the rear bolt to bring it up to 0. So if I add, and again, I'm just guessing, 13 thousandths, so, 2 blue and a strip of green. So I'll sandwich the green in between 2 blues. That gives me 13. So in theory, if my rear bolt was 13,000, this would be at 0. This being at 0 right now, and this being 13 thousandths above 0, give or take, or so, I'm going to add 13,000 to the rear. So right there, that bolt, rear left bolt. Now when I go over to the right hand side of the table, which you can't see, and I will bring you over. Actually, I won't. I lied. All right, so we're not even registering. So we're going to say that baseline is 13. 13 would bring, in theory, this up to 0, this left side. The right side isn't even registering. The front isn't registering, and neither is the rear. So I'm going to take a measurement on the front. I'm going to get it to 0. And to do that, to get to 0, actually let me start back here, because I know that whole 13th-ish. So we're at 0. I'm sure somebody's going to complain about this. We're at 0. This takes us to about 13,000, so we bump that to 13,000th. Then we come over here and make sure my edges are clean of bumpy grease. We're going to come over here. Neither the right front nor right rear is touching, so I'm going to, since I'm adding 13 here, I'm going to see what it's going to take to get the right front to 0. All right, I'm now at 0 on the right front. Let's see what that does to the left rear. Right rear. Nothing. So I'm going to say that is my lowest point. So if we're taking, let's see what these read now. So there's 0, and I'm at roughly 15 thousandths. So 15 thousandths, so that would mean this should be almost double that. So let's pay attention to where this goes from 0. Ooh, I was pretty close to. So there's 0. So that's almost 30,000. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 20, 27 thousandths. All right. So this is my lowest point. The right rear is the lowest. So let's see what it takes to get the right rear to 0. So if the right rear is at 0, the right front is about 16 thousandths. This is going to be, so that's 0. This is going to be 30 thousandths, 35, 40, 41 thousandths. And that is at 30 thousandths. So there's 0, 30, 31 thousandths. So we have a lot of adjusting to do. So I'll play with math, my favorite topic, and figure out where's going to be my 0. So if this is my lowest side, if the right rear is my lowest, that's the one I need to add to so it sounds like the 2 rears are my adds. So I will play with that. I'm a tad confused, so we'll see where we are later. Alrighty, YouTubers, reloading bench back to you once again. And as you can see, again, there's a bunch of different colored shims here, only on the front, not on the back. And I found that not only does shims affect the tramming, but so does the tensioning on the bolts. So FYI for somebody doing this. All right, so we are, let's see, the 0 is at 6 o'clock. So let's see what we've got here. All right, so that's 0. All right, I did this a few hours ago, and then I decided to relax. Let's see what it looks like now. There's a little less than a thou, 3/4 of a thousandth. Almost a thousandth, maybe a little more than 3/4 of a thousandth. And there is, depending on where, you know, I don't know if that shows up, you know, God, there's a lot of glare there. Let me kill this light, see if that helps. Not really. So that is less than half a thousandth. No, I take that back, a quarter of a thousandth. All right, so that was this side. Let me go ahead and leave the I'll do this real time so that you know I'm not, let's see, not doing anything magical. Somebody say, oh, you turned off the camera and then it's not, blah, 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 blah. All right, so there we have, that's right at a thousandth, or excuse me, right at 0. That's a thousandth off. That's 1.5 thousandth. And that is coming in at a thousandth. So that is, in my book, good enough. That's a half a thousandth. So yeah, we're calling that good. So on the right side, I don't think you can see it. Let me grab a flashlight. It's a little dark on that side. I don't think you can see it too clearly. Did I? I can't remember if I have shims in there, tapped in there or not. But I've been playing with shims all night long. All night long. And the colors I used were blue and amber. So the 5,000th and 4,000th. So I was stacking them, interchanging them left and right, and finally got this, again, trial and error. Those bolts, depending on, you know, how tight you make them, the bolts that I'll point to, this bolt and that bolt that the camera can't see. So let me adjust the camera up a little bit. So that back bolt, these two bolts, and then the same thing on the other side. So again, the tension, and even in the instructions it says, you know, you can't crank them down because it's cast iron. You know, this white, that's cast iron. So you start cranking those bolts down and you're going to run into issues, stripping them potentially. So it was a combination of snug fit, and again, I'm really happy with, you know, the frustration of getting that so close on all the sides was just that frustration, but it's done now. So that's that. Later. All right, we are back this morning to continue. So I'm tramming the vise, and I made a decision to take the vise off of this rotational option simply because, well, two reasons. The height, the extra 1.5-inch, plus the bolts. When you put this particular vise down, I don't have bolts that would allow it to actually rotate beyond where these bolts are, so it would hit right here. So I don't have much use out of this, or I wouldn't get much use, at least from my initial thought. Plus it's easier to tram, in my opinion, when you don't have to deal with the rotation. So the only thing I would be doing is securing this bolt, leaving this one a little snug, or snugging this one, leaving this a little looser, and then trying to tram. So if you can see the dial, let me get us to, let's get us to 0. 0 is at 6 o'clock. All right, that's a little high. All right, that's right on the money there. So I think right now I've got it to about a thou. There's a thou difference. Thousandths, right around 1,000, 1.5. little over 1, between 1, 1.5. 2. So we're at 2 thousandths. So I'm going to try and tighten that up. Tap a little, loosen, tap a little, and see where we're at. Back in a bit. So I think I'm going to call this a wrap. So we are at 0. And I'm seeing about less than a half a thou of movement. There's a quarter of a thou, quarter. So we are at less than half a thou. There's half a thou, a little over half a thou. So the question becomes, at what point do I stop tapping to get all right, so we're at 0. All right, I am done tapping. Done tapping. So now the issue is, can I tighten without really messing things up? All right, those are tight. Let's final. Half a thou, quarter. All right, we're gonna say that's good. A wrap, done.